can't stop eating candy. Obviously, I'm not Erin Latimer, although there are days I wish I were. Erin is still traveling and will hopefully be back with us in time for Sunday's Fangirl Book Club chat. In the meantime, you're stuck with me. So you might have noticed that there was no Inspiration Corner last week. Technical difficulties, long story. But what Leah was going to talk about was the whole reader blogger wish list hashtag that happened on Twitter earlier that same week. So because that entire experience was incredibly inspiring for me, I'm going to steal her topic and talk about it today. So a few months ago, there was another hashtag that was essentially agents' wish lists. So the ideas that were getting them excited right then, the types of manuscripts they were hoping would pop up in their inbox, and as a writer, it was a lot of fun to see where various genres were headed in terms of trends and what was going to be big next. Afterward, a group of bloggers got together and started planning a Twitter chat of their own, all about the types of stories that we as readers were hoping to see. And so the reader blogger wish list was born. It wasn't specifically about YA, but that did seem to be where a lot of the ideas were coming from. So I know it was all kinds of inspiration fuel for me. If you missed it, don't worry, they are planning another one for, I think, spring of next year. But in the meantime, here are some of the things that were mentioned and the ideas and themes that a lot of readers are looking for in their books. There were so many great ideas being discussed that day that I'm definitely not going to be able to talk about all of them. For now, I'm going to focus on what got me really inspired, but I will leave some links down below to some other recap posts so that you'll get a more well-rounded idea of what was being discussed. One thing I saw a lot of requests for were more YA books that focused on healthy, supportive, female-female friendships that no way focused on a guy. Let's face it, romance is everywhere in YA, and I have no objection to love interests continuing to be a key plot point, but I would love to see stronger friendships where characters are really building each other up and supporting each other through all of the crazy things that writers are throwing at their characters. There was also a lot of chatter about the way a lot of parents are portrayed in YA books. Let's face it, there's a lot of absentee parenting going on, whereas for a lot of teens, their families are actually a pretty big part of their lives. I know I'd like to see more families like the one in that movie Easy A, where they're involved and quirky and actually know what's going on with their kids. I can see how sometimes that might interfere with the plot, where parents might be like, hey, no, you can't go fight that big evil. But whenever it's possible, I would love to see families be more involved in the stories. Another idea that I really fell in love with was that of seeing more new adult books that don't focus primarily on romance. That point in your life after high school is so huge for everyone, and it's about more than just figuring out who you're going to fall in love with. So there's a lot of potential in that genre that hasn't really been explored yet. So I'd really like to see more of that. Really though, the big order of the day was diversity, and having more characters that show the full scope of people who are reading YA. There was a lot of people requesting more LGBT characters, more non-white characters, and a lot of requests for more stories told from a male point of view. So if you're still not entirely sold on what you're going to be writing for NaNoWriMo or what your next story is going to be, I absolutely recommend scrolling through that hashtag, as you're sure to come out of there with a lot of ideas. But also, don't worry too much about all of the things that people were saying they're sick of, dystopians, love triangles, all that fun stuff. Yes, there are a lot of people looking for something fresh, but if you tell your story your way, there are definitely going to be people who want to read it, so don't worry too much about that. Instead, just let yourself be inspired, see where your story goes, and happy writing.